Welcome to Dodger Stadium for Game 2 of this series between the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers. It is a day full of heavy hearts across Braves country in Major League Baseball, but baseball will be played in honor of Bobby Cox tonight here at this historic ballpark. Game 2 of the series, and the lineup for Walt Weiss and the Atlanta Braves, presented by Racetrack. Dubon is going to lead it off, so that puts Baldwin in the second spot, and Jorge Mateo returning to the lineup and batting ninth and playing short tonight for the Atlanta Braves. On the other side, it's Blake Snell, two-time Cy Young Award winner, battling back from a shoulder issue and making his season debut tonight.
And only 11 starts last year in the regular season for Blake Snell, but we know when he is right, he can be really, really good. He's got great breaking pitches, lots of spin in both the slider and the curveball. Fastball sits around 95.
It is another gorgeous night for baseball here in Southern California. Have to thank Bobby Cox looking down on this one tonight. And the first pitch is a strike. 0-1 here to Dubon. Well, we know about Snell and his past, CJ, and the Cy Youngs and all the success, but as you said, limited last year. And he was supposed to make another rehab start in single-A baseball, so having him here tonight is a bit of a surprise.
It is a big surprise, and then thinking about how deep he can really go. What was it, 50 pitches in the last one for him? And I don't know if I feel like they were in a kind of desperate situation. Like, you do that sometimes, you push a little bit if your team is not playing well, if you're short on starters, but they preferred that Snell make this start instead of Roki Sasaki, who was scheduled to make it.
He gets ahead of Dubon. No balls and 2 strikes. And Dubon softly toward the middle, off the glove of Kim, and it'll be a single for Dubon to get the party started. CJ, what do you have for the Ford Keys?
I think we keep it pretty simple here this evening for the Atlanta Braves, and our focus, as it will be throughout the broadcast, Bobby Cox. And how about winning it here tonight for number 6?
A number that will never be worn again in Braves history, as it should be. A man that went into the Hall of Fame back in 2014 and did so along 2 of his greats in Glavine and Maddox. Now Drake Baldwin flipping from the top spot, and Drake back in the number 2 hole, and probably an area he's more comfortable in.
Yeah, I would think so. We saw that first home run that he hit his first game in the leadoff spot. I'm like, okay, no problem. But I do think there's something probably to having Dubon in front of him, especially against the lefty. It's the lowest we see Drake Baldwin hit here in the 2 hole.
Keep in mind, as you think about the top spot in the order and Ronald Acuna Jr., Ronald is eligible to come off the IL on Wednesday with that hamstring injury. He tested it yesterday before the game, felt pretty good, but Walt said he still has quite a few boxes to check. They're going to be very careful, so don't be surprised if he is not back until a few days, if not longer, than the Wednesday window to return.
The Braves are playing the long game, and they've put themselves in a position here early on where they can afford to do that, right? If you were down, if it was like it was last year, you might feel a little bit more anxiety and push Ronald, but you don't have to do that right now.
Yeah, comfortable lead in the NL East. Braves still 26-13 even after these last couple of losses. Baldwin, well, checked out, and he went. So just unfortunate. He's kind of getting out of the way, but he put his back through the strike zone.
Drake Baldwin is one of these guys that treats his plate appearances and every pitch that he gets in his swing mode, and then it's more about telling yourself not to swing. Kind of hear that terminology sometimes from hitting coaches where it's swing, 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 no, right? And I think that's how he kind of approaches things. And then by the time he realized it was too late, he couldn't stop.
And that one misses outside. Home plate umpire tonight, by the way, is 44-year-old Ben May.
I did see that they just started using the check swing technology in the minor leagues the other day, maybe yesterday was the first time, and it's pretty fascinating. It's going to be on its test run right now. I think hitters believe it can't get here soon enough because it will favor them big time.
And Drake Baldwin stays off the 4-seam fastball. A good start here for Atlanta. A single and now a walk against Snell. Let's take a look at the Car Shield defense behind Blake Snell for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hernandez, Pages, and Tucker in the outfield. Switch on the infield today. You've got Kim making the start at short and Freeland at second. Yesterday was a 3-1 win for the Dodgers. Braves left a lot on base, 10. We're just 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So runners here early for Atlanta. Let's see if they can take advantage.
Walt did such an excellent job today handling the media and said some really profound things. You heard a lot of that in our open. And the words that he was using and started talking about impact and legacy in particular, and how he's trying to do his part the way Snit did his part to kind of continue that Bobby Cox legacy. It was really impressive today, the way he handled all of it.
Yeah, and you think about Brian Snitker today, and he was kind enough to join the pregame show and do a tremendous tribute talking about his dear friend Bobby Cox. And you know, Bobby Cox was watching just a couple of weeks ago when Brian Snitker got inducted into the Braves Hall of Fame, and so glad that Bobby was around to see that moment for Brian Snitker. 1-2 upstairs, 2 balls, 2 strikes to Ozzie.
In a lighter moment, when Walt was telling us that Bobby watches all the games, I just couldn't help but think a little bit of times he's probably was saying, what is CJ talking about? Induced vertical break, man, come on, keep it simple, you know baseball.
Ozzie, little tapper. This could work out well. Everybody's safe. Will Smith can't do anything with it. It's a 30-foot single for Ozzie, and the bases are juiced with nobody out.
Sometimes you get a little bit lucky here. This is that good curveball from Blake Snell. It's going to be just kind of topped into the ground there by Ozzie, but he puts his head down and he takes off, and that's a thing of beauty. You couldn't have bunted it any better than that.
So Dubon at third, Baldwin at second, Ozzie at first, and now Matt Olson to the plate. And again, for as good as Blake Snell has been in his career, this is his season debut coming back from that shoulder issue. Say he's on a 75 pitch limit tonight, and he's running into some trouble here in the first.
And nothing will make Dave Roberts squirm more than seeing a really high pitch count in the first inning. When you have a guy coming back from rehab, we'll talk about what that number might be under a regular circumstance. 35, you start to push it, you get antsy. But when it's a guy that was supposed to be rehabbing, you can push it up even close to that. You might get him out of this game pretty quick.
And he had the issue last year that CJ mentioned. He was out 4 months last year. In fact, his last start in 2025 before being shut down with a shoulder issue was against the Braves on April 2nd. He didn't return until August 2nd, and then went on to stay healthy the rest of the way before having that shoulder flare up again in spring training. 2-2 here to Olson. And it fouls off the slider from Snell. Matt tonight playing in his 823rd consecutive game, and that passes Gus Scherr for the 10th longest streak in Major League Baseball history. So now Matty's in the top 10. Everybody looking up at the great Cal Ripken. Wave and a miss at the slider. There's the first out of the ball game.
That swing there looked like Matt Olson was trying to foul it off again, right? He had fouled off a previous slider. He knew that was going to be borderline a tough pitch to handle. He was hoping for some weak contact in foul territory to keep the at-bat going.
Riley, a couple of hits, including a double and an RBI yesterday, driving in the Braves' only run in the 3-1 loss. Grounder here to the left side. Kim to second. That's the only one they'll get. And the Braves are on the board first as Dubon comes home.
Tell you what, pretty good velocity here early on. That fastball was at 98 miles an hour. They weren't going to have a chance to turn it, but an impressive pitch nonetheless. And Blake Snell working to try to find that ground ball. He's got a no card in his back pocket.
Might have the He's also got the pitch com there on the left side of his belt.
Like he looked at his notes and put them back in his pocket. I'll tell you who would never have stood for something like that. Mr. Bobby Cox.
Michael Harris hitting 6th in the lineup. Kind of fitting. The Atlanta kid hitting 6th tonight on the day we lost number 6. 0-2 here to Harris. And Snell gets out of it with just the 1-run score. Spencer Strider to the mound next. Atlanta Braves baseball is presented by Truist. Braves looking to even the series tonight here against the Dodgers. 1-0 as we go to the bottom of inning at number 1. The Ohtani first up, then Freddie Freeman, then Will Smith. The lineup for Dave Roberts is presented by Racetrack. Freeman had a homer last night. Ohtani drove in a run as well in the 3-1 Dodger victory. Second start of the season, C.J. Ford, Spencer Strider.
I think he's probably pretty happy to get out of Colorado, something we had talked about, and clearly for Spencer Strider, the command was not there. 6 walks, that's not the name of his game. So we know he's very excited to get back to work in between starts and get ready for this one here this evening.
He has not faced the Dodgers since that historic 2023 campaign. He pitched here on this mound August 31st of that season. So it has been a while for Strider, but he is back, and greeting him on the other side is Ohtani. We talked about it in Colorado. You were hitting on it earlier, but 4-seamer, 43 of them, 27 curveballs, 14 sliders. So that pitch mix a little different for Strider. And we talked about some of that maybe being Colorado. We'll see, though, how that plays tonight as he misses there with a curveball.
Yeah, first breaking ball of the night. Maybe it's a new BFF here for Spencer Strider. Tough break for the slider. They've been so close for so long.
But as we say, we know Spencer's going to go into his lab, the literal lab and his own figurative lab, and try to figure out how he can become better. Shaking his head right here. Swing and a miss. What a start for Strider. 97. He gets it by Ohtani.
Feeling it early on. You can tell with the body language and the life on the fastball, the things we talk about, getting into some of what we call those nerdy numbers. The vertical break on the fastball has been very good. That one there, 18 inches. We saw 19 in the first pitch, and when he was in Colorado, that number was about 12. And a lot of that had to do with the altitude.
And some people may roll their eyes, but it matters, folks. That thin air, that dry air, that high altitude, it changes how that baseball moves. Freddie Freeman had a homer last night. And he pops this up. No homer here. Michael Harris saunters in to take it.
Catcher, number 16, Will Smith.
As Freddie Freeman trots back to the dugout, remember too, his first manager was Bobby Cox. When Freddie debuted in September of 2010, it was the end of Bobby's managerial career. Bobby would retire a little over a month later. So Wiley and the media spoke with Freddie earlier, but certainly Bobby is very much on Freddie Freeman's mind tonight.
Yeah, as we start digging around a little bit, I was fascinated by the way Bobby Cox's career was kind of bookended. Right, thinking about that first year when he was managing, which is wild. Phil Niekro at 39 years old. That was Bobby's first year. Was that in '78? And then that last year, he's got 20-year-old Freddie Freeman. There's a lot of baseball in between all of that, and how it started and how it ended for Bobby Cox as a manager.
Well, you think of all the players and the lives that Bobby Cox affected throughout those generations. Will Smith liner to left, and Dubon's going to pump the brakes. Take it on a bounce. 2-out single. The resume pretty incredible. 4th most all time as far as wins go. That '95 title, which is really the first major sports title in Atlanta history. It was so big for the city. First ballot Hall of Famer. And that record, 14 straight division titles. No other team, no other franchise has ever had more than 9 straight. He led the Braves to 14 straight. I know you like that picture with a cigar in his mouth.
That's a good one. Yep, that was a good one. And nothing wrong with a Cohiba once in a while. Still not my favorite of all of the stats and the great things that he did. We need a little footnote. Don't forget about those 162 ejections. Easy number to remember because he basically got ejected for a full season over the course of the 29 years that he was a manager. That is a record that will never be broken.
Yes, I think it is safe to say. 41 more ejections than anybody else in the history of the game. And Chad Bishop of the AJC asked Walt Weiss, hey, you going to get tossed tonight in honor of Bobby Cox? And he smiled and said, no one can do it like Bobby, and the game's changed a little bit.
It's a lot harder to get ejected from a game.
The new acquisition, Kyle Tucker, was 1 for 3 with an RBI double yesterday. Strider ready for a 1-2 pitch. Missing outside with a curveball to even things up.
So not only the usage, we'll certainly keep an eye on the usage of those 2 breaking pitches tonight for Spencer Strider, but the command, right? There was a couple of times where he was really struggling putting those breaking pitches where he wanted to in Colorado, and every once in a while almost had this look and in his body language of not really having an answer as to why.
That's a good changeup right there to take care of Tucker, and the Dodgers in the first.
was my father. He was everything. We played the way we played because of him. We won all those 14 years because of him. You know, he was everything. When you say brave, when you say winning, that's Bobby Cox. When you remember those years, those good years, that's Bobby Cox. He teaches us how to play this game.
Eddie Perez, Braves coach, who spent parts of 9 seasons playing under Bobby Cox, including the 1995 year when he made his major league debut. And guys, it's just a tough day all around Braves country, particularly for a couple of former players in this dugout for Atlanta. The other, Walt Weiss, who of course joined the Braves late 90s to wrap up his career. And I had a chance to speak with Walt, and he pointed out that the biggest reason he is in this current job as Braves manager might very well be Bobby Cox. And that's because, as the lights go out here at Dodger Stadium, that's because Bobby Cox was the first one to put Walt's name on Snit's radar when that bench coach job was open before 2018. Walt and Snit hardly knew each other, but it was Bobby's endorsement that really gave Snit a little extra pause and took a good hard long look at Walt Weiss, and lo and behold, 6 division titles, a World Series championship. Bobby Cox again making the right decision.
Think about the time that you spend as a player under a manager. Your time you're thinking, I'm just playing baseball. But you're actually also writing a resume. You don't realize that potentially if there's going to be work for you in this game after your playing days that gets well established while you're playing. So clearly for Walt, while he was playing under Bobby, he made quite the impression, and it was a name that he wanted Snit to have.
Sean Murphy went around. That is 3 strikeouts here early for Blake Snell.
Right fielder number 36.
Notable numbers. Yeah, there you go. 162 ejections. We got it on there at the bottom. How about the postseason wins? All those playoff appearances, 16 of them for Bobby Cox. Boy, Eddie Perez was getting emotional. Walt Weiss was getting emotional earlier, and see the impact he had on their lives. And I just listened to Walt like you were down there with Wiley interviewing him, and Walt talking about when he got to the Braves in '98. The franchise was established at that point. Bobby was an icon. They'd already won the World Series, and Walt said, I just didn't want to come in and screw it up, be the guy that came in and messed everything up. Obviously, Walt didn't. He was an all-star that year. He was tremendous. But he talked about the confidence that Bobby instilled in him, how Bobby treated him as a player and a person, and that stuck with him always.
That balance, I think, of competitiveness, which was very high, obviously, for Bobby, and as Walt even said today, the level of accountability that came along with playing for him. He demanded a lot of you, but he did not lose sight of also understanding you're a person, understanding how hard this game is. He just balanced it extremely well. And I was thinking about it today, and I do wonder for Bobby if that came from his experience as a player. He played in the minor leagues for a long time, a little bit of time in the big leagues, but didn't have an overly successful major league career. But as he got into coaching, it clearly that was his calling, that he had that part of his background just to remind him of how hard this could be.
Eli White runs really well, and he's going to beat this out. So the Braves with a couple of infield singles. Ozzie had one last inning, and now Eli White here in the second.
Guys, you mentioned Walt starting out with the Braves there in 1998. Remember, just 3 months into that season, Walt's son Brody got very ill with an E. coli scare, and Walt mentioned how Bobby kind of pulled him in his office and say, Walt, go be with your family and come back whenever you're ready. And for Walt, I think that really resonated with him as a manager, trying to build those relationships and make sure you support your guys on and off the field.
Yeah, it's that fine balance that CJ has talked about. Discipline, running the clubhouse the right way, but also having a heart and a care for others. And I think when you heard everybody talk about Bobby Cox today, they will tell you that Bobby Cox did that as well as anybody.
If you're interested in that story about Walt's son, it is a pretty fascinating one. His wife Terry shared that story on the Braves Country Convos podcast back in February. It would be a good listen. It would be worth your time. It's pretty scary stuff that they went through when they were here as a player.
Yes, and thankful that Brody made it through that. It was touch and go for a while, but Bobby was there with him by his side every step of the way. Mateo batting ninth, back in the lineup. Saw Jim Jarvis the last couple of games. Got his first big league hit last night. But now Mateo returns here this evening. Snell with a 1-2. And laying off that pitch is Mateo. And with Snell, what you get is you'll get a lot of strikeouts, you get a lot of walks, you get a lot of long at bats with Blake Snell on the mound.
Never has been very efficient throughout his career, right? It's going to be a lot of pitches. 16, 17 per inning has kind of been the average over these last couple of years for him.
And another longer at bat developing here.
And he could give up some stolen bases. Last year, it was only 6 in those 11 starts. He had 5 caught stealing, but previous years, like I say, he's been an easy guy to steal against, but for a left-handed pitcher, he's had his moments where base runners have taken advantage.
White stays put here. Mateo shoots it to right. It's a single. Back-to-back hits. And the Braves again with a couple of base runners here in inning number 2.
And both with some softer contact against 97-mile-an-hour fastballs, but it works here now for a little bit of action. There's you can see that 4-seam fastball grip, a little bit of cutting action into Mateo. Sounded like he may have broken his bat here, but either way, it's a big hit that he'll take. Now some real speed on the base pass right now for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, 2 of the fastest in White and Mateo, and now Dubon shows bunt and takes it for a ball. Braves loaded him up last inning, got 1. Snell was able to strike out Harris to get out of it. Let's see what happens here. He misses with another changeup. 2-0. And out to talk to him is catcher Will Smith.
I think Will Smith sees the changeup usage. He sees the body language after those 2 pitches, almost like he was kind of begging to get a call on the bunt attempt, right? Sometimes that'll speak to a catcher. You're watching a guy that says maybe not mentally where I want him to be. It's a good time to kind of check in, slow him down, get him reset.
First appearance in a live big league game since November 1 of last year in Game 7 of the World Series when he came out of the bullpen. 2-0 pitch. Dubon to center. Pages over to take it. 2 down. And if you remember in that postseason for Snell, he was tremendous leading up to the World Series, but in the World Series 10 earned runs over 13 innings pitched, but ultimately Dodgers still got their World Series ring. Baldwin walked last inning. Three and 0 here, falling behind Baldwin with Ozzie Albies waiting on deck.
Something a pitching coach really never likes to see is after he threw that pitch, there's a dry mechanic that he's kind of going through that he's trying to repeat, that something doesn't feel right. Just sets off a little bit of an alarm bell.
And again, keep in mind they're hoping to cap him at 75 pitches tonight. He's already over 45. 3-1 to one of the best young hitters in the game, and he walks him again, and the bases are loaded just like they were last inning.
So you drop Drake Baldwin to the 2-hole, and he's acting like a leadoff hitter with these walks.
Number 1, Ozzie Albies.
There's pitching coach Mark Pryor. They certainly are keeping a close eye on one of their superstars tonight. Ozzie with a swing and a miss.
Remember, this is what kind of got in the way of last night's ball game that was close, 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. With all this traffic already, the Braves are 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position.
And Snell getting out in front of Ozzie, 0-2. Blake Snell threw 25 pitches in the first. This is going to be his 25th pitch of the second. Bases loaded, 2 down, 0-2 pitch. Ozzie reaches for it and delivers it out to left field for a 2 RBI single. How clutch is that? He brought out his 9-iron and golfed it out to Hernandez to make it 3-0.
This is an absolute beautiful thing here from Ozzie, because this might have been the best changeup of the group that he had thrown so far, well below the zone, maybe not far enough away, but even then I think we're splitting hairs. That's a good pitch. It's just Ozzie keeping the hands back long enough, even though he looks unbalanced, the hands stay in a good place and give him that chance to line that ball in the left field. That's impressive.
I mean, there are not many guys that can get to that baseball.
No. And I was sitting here watching Blake Snell. I'm like, okay, a couple changeups. Will he try to pop him in? He's got 97, 98 in the tank. Even if it's in off the plate, do you want to go back to it again? And again, it wasn't a bad one, but it's just that it's 3 in a row. Are you seeing the same speed with the same kind of action?
This one gets behind Will Smith. And now runners are at second and third. Did that cross Smith up a little bit? Did he miss location there? Must have.
Let's take a peek here. Usually get an idea of how a catcher reacts. And he just missed it. I think maybe he flinched a little bit in thinking that it was going to clip Matt Olson. This should be a pass ball.
Yeah, that's not one that normally gets by Will Smith. Longtime starter for the Dodgers here behind the plate. Braves are going to add on. First it was Ozzie with a 2 RBI hit. Matt Olson right behind him, and just like that, it is 5-0 Atlanta in the second.
Hanging slider here from Snell. Look how high this pitch is at the top of the zone and maybe even above it. And it's flat, and Matt Olson absolutely laces this thing into center.
Matty now with 35 driven in on the season already. And Mark Pryor just made a call down to the bullpen. They're starting to stretch down there. Edgardo Enriquez is going to start to throw in just a moment, with Snell struggling here in the second. Let's take a look at our racetrack fueling up feature. Austin Riley on this road trip. Got a lot of good things going for Austin here, including a couple of hits yesterday.
We talked about it getting to Colorado and how that may help him a little bit, getting a couple lefties. I think we've seen it. Certainly you can see the numbers here on the road trip, but there's also been some really good swings that have ultimately turned into outs. And Austin Riley's getting it going, and you know he likes seeing this left-handed pitching back-to-back now here these next 2 days in LA.
Matt Olson takes off for second base. Picked a good one to go on. How about Matt Olson showing the wheels into scoring position?
That's what we're just talking about here with Blake Snell. You can pick your spots, and kind of crazy. That might be worth some research. When's the last time Matt Olson, who doesn't run very much at all, stole a base against a left-handed pitcher? We could be looking at some history tonight.
I think that you're going to get the answer for us, partner. Bouncer, third baseman Muncy across. And they will get Riley to end the frame, but a crooked number put up in the second, 4 to make it 5-0.
awesome man, awesome individual, better than people think. Bobby was outstanding. He treated everybody about like men. We didn't need a captain on the team because Bobby was the captain. If things were going wrong, hey, it was times when Bobby would close that locker room door and he would wear us out. So my friend, my man Bobby, rest in peace. You're the best.
One of the many Hall of Famers that Bobby was the skipper for, and Fred McGriff sharing his thoughts. You'll continue to hear the thoughts of many Braves alumni here tonight on the night that we honor number 6, the great skipper Bobby Cox, who passed earlier today at the age of 84.
And to see Fred McGriff there, obviously at a sad time with a big smile on his face. Of course, he's always had that warm smile, but I think as he's going through those memories, those are the emotions that come along. Like, certainly he is sad about the news we got today, but just reminded of the joy that Bobby brought to his life.
Swing and a miss by Pages. Strider 2 strikeouts in the first, and looking sharper tonight than he did in Colorado in his season debut.
Disappointing news. 6th time in Matt Olson's career he stole a base against a left-handed pitcher.
Oh.
Shocked. But it's been 5 years. So
oh, well, it's been a long time.
He had 3 of them in 2021 against left-handed pitchers with those wheels.
But his first as a senior citizen. We kid, Matty, we kid.
His first as a hitter with 300 career homers.
There you go. Swing and a miss. That curveball is becoming one of Strider's best buddies. 3 strikeouts tonight. Getting back to Bobby Cox. Home Depot bringing you these numbers as far as all-time wins by a manager in baseball history. And think about Connie Mack, La Russa, McGraw, and then there's Bobby Cox ahead of Joe Torre. And you mentioned
those 3
earlier.
guys, oh, sorry to say, they went in the same year, right?
Yes.
Tony, Bobby Cox, and Joe Torre, which is kind of amazing the way that it worked out. Of course, that was also Glav. It was also Maddox. I always joke about Smoltz really messing it up by trying to play that one more year, so he went in a year later.
That's right.
Just tried to be a hero and kept going. If you just retired, you would have went in. They all could have went in together. But either way, that was an amazing Hall of Fame.
And CJ was talking about Bobby's playing career. Bobby's 2 years in the bigs were with the Yankees, and then what made me think of that was Joe Torre. Now, obviously, Torre wasn't managing the Yankees back then, but it was 68 and 69 that Bobby played there in the Bronx, and he actually played with Mickey Mantle in Mantle's final season in 68. This is drilled out to right center. Leaping grab out there by Eli White to make the catch and take potentially extra bases away from Max Muncy.
This ball was hit hard, 107 off the bat. Eli with that great speed tracks it down and times that leap perfectly. Excellent play out there by Eli White.
But thinking earlier what you said, CJ, about how rich Bobby Cox's baseball career was, so it spans from guys like Mantle all the way to Freddie Freeman.
It's nuts. It's really insane to think about everybody he'd been around over the course of his career. What a legacy. And it was fun to dig in a little bit. And when I looked at 60 all the way to 2010, there was never a year where he wasn't doing something. There was never a year where he's like a special assistant, like in between jobs. He had a significant job, whether he was playing or managing. Every single year. I forgot about this, or maybe he didn't even know when I brought it up to Walt. He didn't know either. That in '77, Bobby Cox was the first base coach for the New York Yankees when they won that first of their back-to-back World Series, which was kind of amazing. And then, of course, he went on to manage the next year. Just 1 year of being a first base coach and quickly identified as a good candidate to be a big league manager.
And Strider is in a zone right now. That's 4 strikeouts for Strider. He sets the Dodgers down in order in the second.
My favorite memory of Bobby is 2017 spring training. Charlie's 6 months old. Most of my interaction at that time with Bobby was all baseball. And to see Hall of Famer Bobby Cox, the joy on his face when he saw my 6-month-old son, that stuff I will never forget. Him and Pam just like loving on Charlie while he was in the stroller and we're just talking to Pam. Those are the fond memories I have. Obviously baseball, I mean, not many people get to be managed at all by a Hall of Fame manager, and I got to have my first one in the big leagues be a Hall of Fame manager, and a manager who relentlessly had our backs.
And the words of Freddie Freeman before the game, and 12 seasons, look out Michael Harris, but 12 seasons for Freddie Freeman in that Braves uniform. But the first 20 games when he debuted in September 2010 were managed by Bobby Cox, and certainly, as you can tell, he left a lasting impact on Freddie Freeman as well.
Again, it's going to be the consistent theme of the night when you hear these guys talk. The baseball meant a lot. It was incredible. But it's that personal story that they have that they remember the most. That is the one that's had the biggest impact. It's always about how people make you feel. It's what you remember the most.
Freddie and his wife Chelsea just welcomed their 4th child and first daughter into the world on April 19th. So think about Freddie, how much his kids mean to him in that moment with Bobby, and now a father of 4, Freddie Freeman. Harris sends it down the line, but this one's going to go foul.
You know, guys, Freddie Freeman making his Major League debut September 1 back in 2010. I asked Freddie about that, and he said the thing he remembered the most, aside from wanting to throw up when he saw he was in the starting lineup, was Bobby swinging by his locker saying, "Gosh darn, Freddie, why did it take you so long to get to the big leagues?" Keep in mind, Freddie was only 20 years old at the time.
But that's a nice tactic, right? No doubt he was nervous. Again, you have Bobby Cox in his last year. You know you're now playing for a Hall of Fame manager, and he's doing his part to try to get you to relax.
Michael reaches for it, slaps it to second. Freeland with a sidearm throw.
And one of the other things that Freddie took from Bobby, and this goes back to the Braves way and the Braves tradition, he talked about respecting the A, and that's one of the reasons why you will never see Freddie Freeman with his sunglasses above the bill of his cap. He always wears them backwards if he's not wearing them in front of his eyes. That's so you can still see the logo on the front of the hat.
Yeah, Bobby and CJ, you're one of the lucky ones that played for him. You guys have all talked about how he handled his business. It wasn't in a, hey, I'm the authority figure, you do, but he had so much respect for the Braves brand and for the game of baseball.
And the way we carried ourselves was really important. And when you're from a different generation, you'd like to give the newer generation a little bit of a hard time, but these kids don't know what it's like to have to wear dress pants on the road. Not on the flight, on the road. You're going to lunch, you're going to dinner, you better have some dress pants on.
Curveball from Snell, and 1-2 here to Sean Murphy.
Music in the clubhouse? Nope. Bobby Cox offered to buy anybody who needed to hear music headphones if they wanted them. If you don't have a pair, I'll buy you a pair.
Murphy down on strikes for the second time. Well, what a memorable way to start the montage, an ejection for Bobby Cox, but some of the photos from his legendary career. Think of how emotional it was when he returned surprisingly last season to Truist Park and waved to the crowd from up in the suites where he was, and nobody really knew he was coming until that day. And boy, it was so emotional. And Matt Olson talked about that night and him being down in the clubhouse. Now, Bobby couldn't speak because of the stroke from a couple of years ago, but it meant a lot to the guys, this current crop of players, because even though they don't know Bobby personally, he still means a lot. And for an Atlanta kid like Matt Olson, that was a big moment.
And there just aren't going to be those kind of guys going forward that can have that level of an impact that far beyond their careers, right? Of that next generation of players who absolutely knows who Bobby Cox was, what he meant to the team, what he accomplished. All of those division titles, right? The timing of it for a guy like Matt Olson who got to watch that as a kid, right? That's what he was glued to. That was part of what helped him fall in love with the game.
Broken bat. This goes foul before Muncy gets to it. So the Braves in the second inning sent 8 to the plate, scored 4 times. Harris was the only one that didn't come to the plate for the Braves in the third. He bounced out here to start the third inning. And then Murphy the strikeout, and now Snell trying to get a 1-2-3 inning. And we mentioned the pitch count for him is likely to be capped right around 75. He's at 72, so this is probably it here for Snell. Slowly to short. Kim throws it away, nowhere near. So Eli White will reach again, and we'll see if that's it for Snell.
This is the pressure that Eli White can put on defenses for Kim. He knows that he's quick, and so he rushes that throw, and it just takes off, and no chance for Freddie Freeman to get it. Wow, that is a bad throw.
Kim, a guy who played 8 seasons in Korea, now second season in Major League Baseball, and making the air there to keep the inning going. And Snell will stay in to face Jorge Mateo.
Remember what we saw with these two last time, right? Some weak contact, they get on base, they eventually come around to score. Now it's an error here on a routine ground ball, and maybe Mateo can pull some more magic as well.
John Tumpane down there saying that Mateo offered. No balls and 2 strikes as Snell tries to get through 3 innings in his season debut. Eli White got a great jump. He steals second base with ease.
These guys know, and so far over at first base, Antoine Richardson has done a really nice job of picking up on those tells. Like I said, you can pick your spots where you'll be able to take bases easily, and so far tonight a couple of Braves have.
Called strike on the corner. Mateo will not challenge it. We are on our way to the bottom of the third.
I came up in a big spot, chance to win the game, 3-2 count. I thought the fastball was away, so I'm yelling at the umpire, well, here comes Bobby. We both get ejected. We get on a plane to go to San Diego, and we're in the food room having lunch, and they had the highlights on the TV. And he walks by with his metal spikes on. They show the pitch up on the TV, and he goes, come on, Mac, that was right down the middle. You owe me $500 for my fine. And that's who he was. No matter what, whether we were in the right or we were in the wrong, he was there to defend us, and he is the absolute best, and I love him.
Yeah, Brian McCann, first 6 seasons in the bigs from 2005 through 2010. Bobby Cox was his manager, and everybody has kind of said the same thing. He had our backs, right? And I think the players love that so much.
They do, and it's how you earn respect as a manager. You pretty much have to do it or you're going to lose your clubhouse, but it was natural to Bobby Cox. That's who he was. The best part of that story, which has been talked about some in the past, was that Bobby was wearing his spikes.
Yeah.
That he always wore his metal spikes as a manager. It just made him feel like he was a ball player. It's kind of an old school thing. There were some older school coaches that would do the same.
I think this is going to be a good challenge here by Murphy. Yes, that clipped the corner.
It's amazing audio they got here. No question it. The world.
5 strikeouts already for Spencer Strider. He has been tremendous so far.
I mean, I'm kind of grateful we didn't have ABS during Bobby Cox's time, because probably would have knocked that down to about 130 ejections over time.
Some of the ejection stories that were shared today on social media, many of them we have heard, but boy, it just brought a lot of smiles to our faces on a sad day. Our Toyota Trends feature, fittingly, is the manager ejections. As I mentioned, 41 more than anybody else. John McGraw won 21.
And I'm sure we could have even a little bit more fun if you started doing it by game. The percentage of games that he was ejected. The raw count by itself is impressive. I'm pretty sure John McGraw managed in a lot more games.
Bottom of the order at Alex Freeland. So Strider 5 strikeouts through the first 8 hitters that he has faced tonight. And there's another one. Freeland is down looking. 6 Ks. First time through the order for number 99.
And this is the slider. The previous punch out came on a curveball, but that's that really good version. Tight, late, and just catching the inside corner.
Since that's number 6, we'll call that the Bobby Cox. How about 6 after facing 9 tonight?
Both of the breaking balls are looking really sharp, but I would say the slider is back. It did seem like in that last start in Colorado, it just wasn't there, and so we saw more curveballs, but we're getting that good slider tonight from Strider.
Yeah, so 2 on the curveball, 2 on the slider, 1 on the fastball, 1 on the changeup. A little bit of everything tonight for Strider. He got Ohtani on the fastball back in the first.
Interesting swing decision there from Shohei Ohtani. That pitch was probably 6 to 8 inches in off the plate in a 2-0 count, right? It's one thing when you're protecting. Tell yourself 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 1 pitch, 1 spot. I'm not sure that was it.
Strider will take it. Now a 2-1 coming. And that curveball catches that outside corner to even things up. Ground ball. There's Matt Olson. Strider covers and beats Ohtani to the bag. Vintage Spencer Strider tonight at Dodger Stadium.
What I want to tell you about is the man, the guy that when a dude was struggling, instead of benching him, he might move him up in the lineup. When a guy is, in AAA and AA, Bobby always spent spring training going to the backfields, watching them, trying to build them up. Hey, you'll be here this year. He was just such an incredible guy to inspire, to lead. As great as a manager he was, even better person, better leader. And I know I find myself coaching and doing things today, and I see Bobby. You're like, man, that was him, what he instilled in me.
And Jeff Francoeur, our very own Frenchie, he has a unique perspective as a kid who grew up in Atlanta, watching all those games back in the day on TBS, and then getting to put on that jersey and play for the legend Bobby Cox from 2005 to 2009. So very touching words from Frenchie.
Yeah, and to think about really what he remembers the most, right? There's probably lots and lots of stories that we could get from Jeff Francoeur, but these moments you kind of think of the ones that rise to the top, and talking about how he handled some players that maybe were going through failure again is a really intriguing one to me, because it speaks to the personality. A guy who played a little bit but didn't have great success, who understands the struggle. How can I help a guy get out of struggle? I'm going to do something a little different that might help his confidence.
Dubon has 2 hits already, so Dreyer comes into the game, and Dubon greets him with a single to start the 4th inning.
Designated hitter Drake Baldwin.
So Snell goes 3, reaches his pitch limit here in his season debut, and now it's on to Jack Dreyer.
Dreyer will give you a 4-seam fastball, slider, curveball combination, but mostly it'll be the 4-seam fastball and that slider that sits at 93, does the heater.
There's the slider. Former undrafted free agent. He was a long shot, was Dreyer, out of Iowa in 2021, but he broke camp last year with the Dodgers and has been in the big league bullpen ever since. Sharply to second, 4-6. 3 double play. Here's a quick message from Chevrolet.
Get into a 2026 Chevy Trax, starting at $23,495. Proud partner of the Atlanta Braves.
So Baldwin hit it well, but right at Freeland, and now 2 down. Ozzie, a couple of hits and a couple of runs driven in already tonight. Little nubber down the third base line. He did that in the first inning and reached, but here he's retired, and we're on our way to the bottom of the 4th.
He was passionate about his family. He was passionate about the game of baseball, and man, was he passionate about his players. We all know how he fought tooth and nail every single night to defend his players, to get every inch he could get for us during the course of a game. And quite honestly, I think it was one of the traits that everybody who played for Bobby loved. And I think one of the big reasons why everybody who played for Bobby would run through a wall for him. My dad obviously was the greatest male example for me in my life, and Bobby was in second place by himself by a long shot. He taught me so much about the game of baseball. He taught me so much about life through the game of baseball.
The great Tom Glavine. And keep in mind with Glav that when he debuted in '87, as he came up, that's the 5-year period where Bobby Cox was the general manager. Then he would return in his second stint as manager during the '90 season, and with Glav and others, they would go in '91 from worst to first and into the World Series. As Freeman taps it, barehanded by Strider, tremendous effort to get Freddie Freeman to start the bottom of the fourth.
Both of these little kind of infield hits that we just saw, one here now fielded by Strider, the other one by Dreyer last inning. Very athletic plays, and watch how quickly Strider gets there, bare hands it like an infielder. If he doesn't get that, that's going to be an infield hit.
That is our what a burger, what a play, and what a play it was.
And an absolute strike to Matt Olson. A lot of times pitchers will panic, maybe try to jump throw, but Spencer Strider with the smart move to spin and plant.
And now Will Smith, who singled back in the first. That is the only base runner so far for the Dodgers. Boy, Strider has looked really good, CJ.
Yeah, he's a man on a mission for sure. He was not happy about how that first start went back in Colorado. We can make excuses, and not excuses. There's legitimacy behind them. But as far as dealing with that altitude with the type of pitcher that he is, first start back, maybe not ideal, but you do what you got to do. No excuses from Spencer Strider. But we're seeing the difference now.
Outside, 2-1. But as we continue to play these messages today from all these Braves greats, we also want to say we appreciate them taking the time. And I know that they would say, well, we want to do it for Bobby, but they took time out of their schedules to make sure that they sent in a message. And great job by our crew today that was here working feverishly to get all of that together, piloted by Gretchen Caney, to put together a tribute broadcast tonight in honor of the great Bobby Cox. So Smith has been the only guy to give Strider an issue. He reached with a single in the first, now walk in the fourth.
I was wondering if there was some uncomfortable history for Spencer Strider with Will Smith, and the answer is yes. 5 for 9 coming into this one with a couple of doubles. So not intentionally walking him there, but being a little bit more careful.
Now he faces the $60 million man in Kyle Tucker here. Challenge.
Well, Murphy had been on a good run. I think it's been 4 straight since he make it 5, right? He missed the first 2. And then I think he went 3 for 3 in his next game, and now 2 for 2 tonight. Let's go, Murph.
He has turned it around. Just remember missing all that time until earlier this week, recovering from the hip issue and the surgery. But Sean Murphy back third at start of the season tonight, and a pretty good pick there on that slider from Strider. And it may take Murphy a little while to get in a groove at the plate. If you look back at his numbers from the rehab stint, CJ, he struggled to start. He came on at the end there in Gwinnett, but then you bump up to this level. It's kind of like spring training again for him, I'm sure.
It is. There's a lot of time between seeing regular big league pitching and until you're really comfortable in getting it going. And we know also the way the Braves manage this thing, it's sporadic playing time, right, between what Drake Baldwin is doing and Sean Murphy is doing. But the defense has always been incredible and consistent. That part certainly has continued to his expectations.
Ozzie is right there on to second for one. Mateo to Olson, but the throw is wide, and Tucker escapes the tag.
So it doesn't go down as an error, but I think Mateo certainly is going to tell you he should have made this play. Ball's hit hard, you get one hop, you feel like you had plenty of time. And unfortunately, that throw just offline.
Olson did everything he could, but Tucker escapes it to extend the inning. These uniforms, by the way, are the City Connects for the Dodgers. They've worn them now a couple years in a row. So that's the different look tonight for the home team.
They're one of these teams. It's pretty hard to top their home whites. The tradition, of course, for the Dodgers and how far back this organization goes. Like, listen, there are as we love them, but we just feel like we have the best because there's this instant connection of the throwback that you get every time the Braves have done the City Connects. I don't see it here with the Dodger one.
Yeah, I truly think the Brave City Connect that now has been retired and the new Brave City Connect are about as good as you can do in that department. Strider is looking for a 7th strikeout. 1-2 to Pages. A fastball at 97. Pages has been off to a tremendous start, as we told you last night, including 3 home runs Wednesday in the series finale against the Houston Astros. So when some of their bigger stars have not been up to snuff, Pages has helped to carry the water in the early going. And it was Pages who had a solid regular season last year, but really struggled in the postseason, and then came in as a defensive replacement in Game 7 and made a tremendous catch to help extend that ball game.
It saves the World Series, right? He doesn't make that play and that game is over. There's a couple of moments in that World Series, obviously the one that everybody talked about with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at home plate and the lack of a secondary lead, but that one to me was just as big. It was an unbelievable catch.
He collided with the left fielder Kike Hernandez in making that play on the warning track. He fouls off this 4-seam fastball. Again, the 3-2. Bouncer towards Riley. He takes. Across it goes, and we head to the 5th.
Remembering one of the greats tonight, Bobby Cox, passing away this morning at the age of 84. Not just a Braves icon, but an Atlanta icon. And as an Atlanta native, Matt Olson steps to the plate here to begin the inning. I had a chance to catch up with Matt and get his memories from what he saw watching and going to Braves games growing up as a kid. And the first thing Matt mentioned was all the winning that the Braves did growing up, made it easy to fall in love with baseball. And the other thing he mentioned was he loved going to the games and rooting for Bobby to go onto the field and get ejected. He thought that was as exciting as any play he could see at his age. And guys, there was just something special about watching him storm onto the field and go ballistic on an umpire. And I think Matt would tell you that was his favorite part.
That's special. I remember watching all those games, and so many times he would get ejected, and I would get just as excited there on my couch at home, CJ. It's like, yeah, you get out there, Bobby. I felt like he's one of us. He's protected our guys.
You kind of learn on the way that it's supposed to be done, and obviously the impact there for Matt Olson, but also just the consistency of seeing Bobby Cox manage his team year in and year out, right? That second time around for him, and that long stretch that he was here and leading this club and thinking about what the game is now. Was it 20 years the second time, or 21, I guess, right? 90 to 2010. 26 managers right now have had their job 5 years or less. I mean, you're never going to see it again. You just don't get those opportunities. The turnover rate is so high for managers, and we had something really special.
Backhanded by Freeman, and he will get Olson at first base. You know what is fitting tonight? Who's got the sauce? Brought to you by Zaxby's. Nobody had more sauce than Bobby Cox.
I do wonder which umpires may be his favorites. The first one there was Angel Hernandez that we just saw. But he shows you how it's supposed to be done. And there is a lot to this. This matters, and I do think most managers have this built in. But there was nothing there to correct it. Right? There was no instant replay. And so a lot of times these umpires did get it wrong. And they had to hear about it, and there was no recourse.
Bobby Cox jerseys here in the crowd as we head to a break with a pitching change for the Dodgers.
Stand your attention, please. Now pitching for the Dodgers, number 60.
Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by your local Ford dealer, by Georgia Natural Gas. It's that simple. And also by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing. A look at the statue tonight back home outside of Truist Park for the great number 6, the skipper, Bobby Cox. We get to walk past that as we go into quote-unquote work every night at Truist. And it shines a little brighter tonight. Riley to lead off, or not lead off rather, but the second batter here in the 5th as the new pitcher is Enriquez. This guy's got a big arm, CJ.
He does. He sits at an even 100 miles an hour with his 4-seamer. The 2-seamer actually averages 101. Not supposed to work that way. The 2-seamer is supposed to be a little bit less. Slider and cutter in there as well for the big right-hander.
Ahead of Riley 0-2. Ooh. 101 on the 4-seamer. So when you see the 2-seamer and 4-seamer like that, does that tell you anything?
Yeah, it tells you that it's going to move, but it doesn't slow down, right? Generally, you might see a mile or 2 or 3 with that 2-seam fastball. It's going to be off the 4-seam fastball average velocity. It's kind of exciting for a pitcher when you can get the movement, if it's good, legit movement, without losing velo. Not so much for the hitters.
And Riley fouls off 99.
The 4-seamer, though, has been an issue. 417 batting average against the 2-seamer. A lot better, just 154. So there's been some good contact against his 4-seam fastball.
He grew up in Venezuela. Dodgers signed him as a catcher, but then moved him to pitching because they saw the talent in that arm. And here he is at the big league level. He did miss a lot of time last year with a left foot fracture that he had off the field in spring training. So it was a kind of off-kilter 2025 to start for Enriquez.
Trying to pull that trick again like they did with Kenley Jansen, right? Came up as a catcher, convert him to a pitcher, and turns into now a borderline Hall of Fame closer.
And he would love to eventually be a closer. Enriquez has been open about that, but not right now.
Yeah, the walk rate a little bit high right now here early on in his career. 12% coming into this game here tonight.
Threatening to walk Riley here. There's that 2-seamer at 101. There are only 3 qualified pitchers in Major League Baseball that average north of 100 this year. Mason Miller, Joan Duran, and this guy, Edgardo Enriquez. A 9-pitch at bat that nets a walk for Austin Riley. Michael Harris is our Georgia Natural Gas Greener Life Impact player. You compare last year to this year through the first 36 games for Michael Harris, it's almost like a different player.
He is a different player, and it goes back to the mechanical changes that he made right around that All-Star break time for Michael Harris. The contact has been just absurd as far as the hard contact rate that he has made this year. And the selection, right? He's been a little bit more selective. He's never going to, as we talk about often with him, change that chase rate where it gets dramatically better. But it has been better, and his strikeout rate has come down, and he's looking really good here so far.
He had 4 hits yesterday, all singles. We talk about that hard hit rate. All of those balls yesterday in play were 105 miles per hour or greater off the bat.
So he's up 5 miles an hour on his average exit velocity throughout his career. That is a big, big number. Last season he was just under 90. Average exit velocity at 89 this year, 95 and change. So it's been about a 6-mile-an-hour jump year over year, and about 5 for his career.
It's been a great thing to see for the former National League Rookie of the Year. Hits this one pretty hard toward the gap, and nobody is going to get there. It's going to bounce up against the wall. Riley's on his horse. He is coming home. Safe. 6-0, a fitting score in honor of Bobby Cox right now with the Braves on top.
What a nice job on the base running side here for Austin Riley. First of all, Michael crushes it, 99 against 99. So 99 in, 99 on the way out here against Enriquez. But look at Austin Riley, gets a feel for where that ball is, and then it's head down. Trust your pitching, your third base coach in that spot, and every step mattered here as he's just barely in front of that tag.
Last night we saw Harris thrown out at the plate. That time Riley slipping the hand in there ahead of the tag by Smith. And just a great response by Atlanta tonight. They jumped on Blake Snell early, 1 in the first, 4 in the second, now adding on here in the 5th. And these Braves players are well aware of the struggles since 2018 here at Dodger Stadium, where they're just 6-22 over the last 28 games, and looking like they want to put that behind them a bit here tonight. Broken bat, stays fair. Muncy across. And we're going to see Dom Smith step in and hit here in the 8th spot of the order for Eli White. All right, Yellowwood bringing the lumber feature, as the Braves have brought the lumber so far this evening. The last 3 games, just 4 runs. This powerful offense was kind of held in check by Seattle last night by the Dodgers, but not tonight.
No, it's looked really good. And yeah, there's been a little bit of a lull here offensively. They've run into some really good pitching. Quite honestly, it's been a big part of it for the Braves, and a tight one yesterday where they end up coming up empty. A bunch of 1-run games here recently that we saw up at Seattle. This is interesting for Walt Weiss. He sees a spot here, even though the Braves are up big, and you do have the really good defense of Eli White. You also have a good matchup here because Dom Smith has been crushing fastballs, as we know. He's been good in pinch hit spots, and Walt's looking for a little bit more.
So you can have Dom Smith hit here and then put Yastrzemski into the outfield. The numbers there for Dom Smith. It has been a tremendous start to his Braves tenure. He chased up top, the cutter that time. 0-2.
Yeah, interesting here, back-to-back now that he has seen that cutter. It's still really high velocity. That one at 95, the previous one at 97. So he has not gotten a look at the fastball yet. Now we'll see if they use it. Would it be that two-seamer that runs away after a couple of cutters that have come in?
He spikes a slider. Smith knocks it down. Smith awaits a 1-2. And the slider lands inside to even the count here. On another beautiful night for baseball here in Southern California. 65 degrees right now. Had abundant sunshine after that marine layer burned off this morning. The other way, diving stop by Muncy. He saved a run, but the Braves do add on. It is 6-0.
He was your father at times. He was your uncle at times. And he was that guy across the street at times that would kick you in the butt when you needed it. And you really appreciated that in him. Bobby loved all his players. So to all those Bobby Cox fans, including myself, we're going to love and miss Bobby Cox. Because, as I said, not only was he a special manager that everybody got to see, he was a special person. I loved him for that.
Well, before there was Chipper Jones at the hot corner, there was Terry Pendleton. Terry, the MVP of the National League in '91, and that is the year that the Braves, under the guidance of Bobby Cox, turned everything around, went from worst to first into the World Series, and that set off that string of 14 straight division titles. And you could just tell, more touching words from another Braves alum, that Bobby Cox meant so much to.
TP got to see it, of course, as a player and then as a coach here for a long time under Bobby Cox, and so a lot of tutelage, a lot of time spent together, and clearly a lot of respect.
And Bobby Cox, by the way, the Dodgers actually signed him as an amateur free agent back in 1959, so this one's going foul. There is a tie here to the Dodgers organization. Bobby spent 9 seasons in the minors, but the first handful were with the Dodgers. And then he was also in the minors with the Braves. The Braves traded Bobby Cox to the Yankees in '67 while he was in the minors, and then he had those 2 years in the bigs before ultimately his chronic knee issues made him retire from the game and get in on the coaching side. And then the rest is history from there.
They took to it really quickly, right? The managing, and I found this very fascinating when I saw it, managing in the minor leagues that first year in 1971, it was A-ball.
This one's going to stay playable for Olsen in foul ground.
There's nothing unusual about that part of it. And then I noticed he also played in 4 games and had 9 at-bats that same year. So as a 30-year-old, when he was managing in the minor leagues for the first time, at one point he activated himself. And he got a few more at-bats before it finally ended. And then that coaching career took off, and he moved quickly. It was a year in A-ball, a year in AA, a couple years in AAA in Syracuse with the then AAA Yankee team, and then off to the big leagues.
And most folks have probably heard the story, but when he was first managing the Braves, Ted Turner let him go. That's when he went to Toronto and managed up there. And Ted Turner, you could tell, and by the words and the way he handled it, he always wanted to get Bobby Cox back, and then he would get him back as the GM in '86, and then he would move back into the managerial role in 1990. And it's just so interesting that Ted Turner and Bobby Cox, too, certainly the Mount Rushmore of Atlanta Braves baseball history, passed within just 3 days of each other here this week.
And that kind of current perspective that we were sharing with Ted Turner and what it has meant for Braves vision, right? It continues to live on, and that's why we go all around the country. There are so many Braves fans. That was Ted Turner's vision. We're fortunate to be here.
Another one towards Olsen. This one is going to carry into the net.
And then I was thinking about this. So I was fortunate to play here just a couple of months in 2004. As you see there, Ted Turner and Bobby Cox and hoisting that trophy. I don't get to be here if I'm never a Brave, right? I wasn't a Brave very long. It was very brief. It was a great experience for me. That doesn't happen if Bobby Cox says, yeah, you're making the opening day roster. When I signed here, they told me I had no chance of making the team. It was, look at you as a veteran. You've been around. We got some things we got to fix. We're going to put you in the minor leagues. If you get them fixed, maybe you help us later in the season. I ended up having a great spring training. It worked out. It went down to the very last day, like literally the night before opening day. They came over and they told me I made the team, which was a cool moment. Never you get picked to be on an opening day roster. But if that doesn't happen, if they decide, and I had a great spring, it really went down to the last second. And if they're like, you know what, let's put them in AAA instead, and I never get up here, I'm not sitting next to you right now. You just don't get this job if you haven't put the uniform on, at least at some point. Clearly, you don't have to be a great Brave to do this job, but you have to have been a Brave. And without that, without Bobby Cox putting his nod on that for me to make that 2014, we're not teammates right now.
Well, that's pretty special. I'm thankful that that happened. I know that. And your words before the broadcast were just so perfect on Bobby and the legacy and the life that he led.
Now, I'll say this, based on how I pitched, he might have changed his mind if he knew how things went in 2004, but I'm grateful for it.
You know what? I'm a true believer that those things happen for a reason, and that stint back then made today possible, and we're all thankful for it.
You become a diehard because of Ted, right? I mean, it's just the way that it is. And you got your dream job. I have my dream job because Bobby put me on that team.
That's what makes tonight both special and emotional. It truly, though, is when you get Ted Turner that goes to 87 and Bobby Cox to 84 and the full lives that they led. In these moments, it really is a celebration. And today is a celebration for number 6. Under the glove of Strider, Mateo will get the out at second base. 1 down here in the bottom of the 5th. 2 down, rather, excuse me.
Smart play by Mateo not to try to do too much. You're dealing with the base. You don't want to attack that ball too aggressively. Make sure you field it cleanly. Go ahead and get that lead runner and leave it at that.
Spencer Strider, you look up here in the 5th inning. He's got the 6 punch outs. He's only given up 1 hit. That single to Will Smith with 2 outs in the 1st. He's got a 6-0 lead.
And the velocity is holding. That last one at 96. Good vert on that heater as well. 19 inches on the last one. That's a nice number for him. He's got the ride that he's looking for. Both breaking balls are looking really good here so far tonight.
Now he faces Freeland, the 24-year-old rookie at the bottom of the order.
And the slider's packed. That start in Colorado, we talked about how the slider wasn't there, and so he went to more curveballs going forward. Tonight, it has been a different story for Spencer Strider. I have him at 34% sliders, only 12% on the curveball. So the usage is back in line of what we were used to seeing when he first introduced that curveball a couple of years ago.
He punched out Freeland looking in the 3rd. He's ahead of him 0-2 here in the 5th. Check over close. Matt Olson pointing to the dugout.
Did you see that great shot we had of him giving the side eye over at first? That was perfect time. He didn't turn his head. He just went side eye. And he had a thought in his mind. And let's see if there's a challenge coming.
They are going to challenge him. Walt at the last second. Remember, you get 15 seconds. He signaled earmuffs.
Kim's about had enough of challenges, right? He got punched out on an ABS challenge.
Challenging the save call first base.
And now an instant replay challenge might have him picked off. He caught him a little flat-footed. It's going to be close, really close. Maybe a tough one to overturn, but I like taking the chance here.
Yeah, is there enough to say that that tag got to the elbow of that right arm of Kim? We'll see.
Strider had 4 pickoffs last year after only having 2 coming into that season in his career. A big part of his game that improved.
So Chris Conroy, the crew chief, awaiting the wording from the replay center back in New York.
So yesterday I thought it worked in the Braves' favor that it was taking a long time. That ended up not being true. I want to say it again, but I didn't like the way it went yesterday, so I'm not going to say it.
The call of the field stands. The runner is safe. Atlanta loses their challenge.
All right, so challenge gone here in the 5th. But there's 2 down, and Strider's ahead of Freeland here 0-2. And Wiley reminding us that those 4 pickoffs last year were all in the final 6 starts for Strider. So he's figured something out. He's figured something out tonight. That slider is working. Strikeout lucky number 7 for number 99.
Dodger fans, it's time for Dodger Derby presented by Jacoby.
And I tried to make baseball fun, and spring training I always tried to make fun. You know, letting guys do what they want to for the most part.
Had a blast.
I've even heard that from guys that were here just 1 year. So that was the greatest spring we ever had.
Yep.
We had to save a little bit for the end because we were always in the playoffs and, you know, championship games. So it worked out.
That was such an amazing round table. She doesn't want me to mention it, but our producer Gretchen Caney helped put that together back in the day, and you're going to be able to watch that. Saw it before the game on Braves Vision. You're going to be able to watch it later. If you miss it, there's going to be plenty of that throughout the rest of the weekend on the great Bobby Cox.
It is such a great point going back to the culture that has been established here by Bobby Cox and regarding spring training and how you treat it. Everyone's kind of afraid not to do enough work, and there almost has to be a confidence to do a little bit less, right? To pick your spots, to be really good in your reps, quality reps. But if you get some time, take your time, because they expected to play late October baseball every single year, and they knew that meant a really long season. And we don't want to be burning bullets in spring training. Now we get more off days in spring training than we did back then. It was one off day. That's all you got. And I remember we had gotten a rain out one day, and Leo had gotten together with the pitchers, and the message was clear: don't come in here tomorrow and throw, or come here because we're rained out. We have an off day, take your off day. You want to go play golf, go play golf. We have an off day, take your off day, because you're going to wish you took it later in the season. And and I get it, there's a work mentality and a culture that just you feel like you want to leave no stone unturned, but it's okay to rest once in a while.
Yep.
Not the way Wiley rests, but
Dubon way up into the air, and it'll be Freeland over there to grab it. 2 away here in the 6th. And the other thing that was mentioned in the pregame, but we certainly want to mention from all of us at Braves Vision, to Bobby's wife Pam, to Bobby's 8 children, to the grandchildren. Certainly all of our thoughts are with you all. I know that this is a day that seemed imminent at some point with the health declining, but when the finality comes, when that moment comes for the family, there has to be a lot of heartache today. So Pam, and to all the children and grandchildren, all of Braves Vision and Braves Country, certainly with you tonight and in the coming days and weeks. 2 down here. Baldwin takes that well inside at 99 from Enriquez. Bouncer toward the dugout, stays 1-2. Braves trying to force a rubber game tomorrow. It'll be a matinee 110 here, 410 back at Atlanta, with Bryce Elder going against Justin Robleski on getaway day. And it puts a conclusion to this long 10-day trip. Longest road trip of the season for the Atlanta Braves.
That's a good pitching matchup. Obviously, we're very familiar with the great work that Bryce Elder is doing, but if you take a fan that's not in LA and not in Atlanta and they like baseball, don't follow it closely, they may not realize that both of these guys, Robleski and Elder, have been 2 of the best in the game so far this year.
Yeah, with all the stars that the Dodgers have, Robleski may not be that name that jumps out, but he's helped provide some stability to the rotation this year. And remember, they just put Tyler Glasnow on the IL. They just got Snell back today, making his season debut start tonight. Strider pacing. He has been tremendous so far with just the 1 hit, no runs given up. And he's about to come back out to the mound in the bottom of the 6th with a 6-0 lead. A couple more guys who played for Bobby Cox, and this is outside of the visiting manager's office here at Dodger Stadium. Kind gesture, putting those flowers on the picture of Bobby Cox. And I also thought the moment of silence for both Bobby and Ted Turner before the game was so well done. A very classy gesture. You knew there would be a moment of silence, but they took a while. They spoke glowingly about them, and I thought it was just really well done.
Yeah, hat tip absolutely to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Excellent work pregame and honoring both of those men.
And Strider has done his part tonight. 7 strikeouts. He's ahead of Ohtani here 0-2, and he sets him down with gas. That is twice that Strider has blown the fastball by the 4-time MVP.
At first at bat it was 97. This one here at 96 with, again, a good vertical. You see how the barrel goes underneath the baseball for Shohei Ohtani. That tells you that Spencer Strider's fastball's got that carry you're looking for.
So many positives tonight for number 99. Freddie Freeman fouling it away. When Freddie hit that homer last night, a couple of things. One, it was his first since April 6th, so it was one of the longer droughts of his career. It was also his 100th as a Dodger. And remember, he hit 271 with the Braves, so 371 total now for Freeman in his career. Strider trying to put him away quickly. And missed inside with a slider. Freeman gets underneath it. Innocent pop. Harris calls and takes. Let's get a message in right here from Zaxby's.
Zaxby's giant chicken finger quesadillas. Get them while you can. Who's got the sauce?
Zaxby's.
Dylan Lee is up in the Braves pen, so if you could get Strider here through 6 and 87 pitches right now, you love how it sets up the rest of the way.
I would agree, and I think for Walt Weiss, probably getting him up, taking a look at kind of where this lineup is. You have Tucker, who is on deck, Muncy a couple of hitters away, but not throwing with much intent down there is Dylan Lee at all. So Spencer Strider still got some room.
He threw 87 pitches against the Rockies in his debut. There's pitch number 89 tonight. Foul tip on the four-seamer for Will Smith.
How about that? 97. Again, this velocity is holding right now, and Spencer Strider has looked great.
Smith is the only guy that he hasn't retired. A single and a walk. Smith sends it out to right. Yastrzemski over toward the line. It found ground. He's got it. Strider 6 innings. Shutout. 1 hit.
A new collection of items for the next generation of fans. Come shop the bold new collection at the Atlanta Braves Clubhouse store in Truist Park.
I can't think of another guy that I would rather have managing a baseball team. I would run through a wall for Bobby. He stayed with me when I was 2-11 in 1991, and he gave me the opportunity to be the kind of pitcher that he believed in. He knew the game was hard. He knew that players were going to go through slumps. He gave players confidence when they didn't have it in themselves, and that alone allowed us to be great. All our success is because of Bobby.
The words of another Hall of Famer, John Smoltz, talking about the Hall of Famer Bobby Cox.
It's a good point there, right? And this is where you establish those relationships and your trust and your belief in your manager when he gives it to you. Right? Smoltz's point there. Wasn't a great first half. He believed in me. He let me stay in the rotation. He puts up monster numbers second half of the season, and of course, then the rest is history.
Paul Gervais, he is tall. He's 6'10" out there. Just his 7th big league appearance as he enters here in the 7th inning.
You heard John saying there that Bobby backed him up. Well, how about the story Walt Weiss shared with us earlier today? Of course, Walt spent 3 seasons with the Braves, and he said they were sort of an impromptu team meeting. Wow. How about that boy? But essentially at the end of the meeting, after they aired some grievances and talked some things as a group, John Smoltz ended it saying, look, if you can't do it for yourself or the guy next to you, do it for 6. Thought that was pretty impactful.
It is, because it's the guy that has your back the entire time. Again, you never think about all the years, in my opinion. I don't ever remember seeing players leave here with drama. Even if things didn't go their way, right? If they weren't a very good Brave or they didn't get the playing time they wanted and let go or traded, whatever it may be. Just never any darts thrown on the way out. I sat there, Bobby Cox looked me in the eye and told me when I was getting released. And I mean, just the way that he had talked to you and the way that he treated you leading up to that, you couldn't really have any ill will, right? You respected the decision. You respected the way that he treated you, and you returned it back.
Olson with his 2nd hit to go along with 2 runs driven in tonight. I saw earlier where Andrew Jones, and I've heard him say this before, but Andrew Jones posted about Bobby Cox being his 2nd father. That's how he referred to him. And I remember, and I know you do too, CJ, when Andrew Jones burst onto the scene in '96 as a 19-year-old. And he played center in an unorthodox way, and he played it shallow, and sometimes it was flashy for that time. He would make the catches look so casual out there, and you would see Bobby Cox kind of seething in the dugout. And I think back to that time. Again, Andrew Jones was a little bit cutting edge, if you will, for mid-90s in baseball as a young kid coming up. And I thought, as a young kid watching in Indiana, I'm curious to see how this relationship of old school and new school plays out. Well, how it played out is that Bobby Cox became his quote-unquote 2nd father, and he had a lot of respect by the end of the career for Andrew Jones, and nobody had more respect for Bobby Cox than Andrew Jones. And that's the kind of impact that Bobby Cox had. He could coach old school, but he learned a way to coach new school and have an impact on Andrew Jones that nobody else did.
And for a man of his generation, those are big words, right? One of those guys could not, when they watched the game change, they couldn't, and usually didn't stick around, both managers and coaches. It says a lot about Bobby. You're right. It was an interesting time for sure when that was going on, because it was a different style. Bobby was older school. They found a way to make it work, and the mutual respect, it ran very deep.
And Andrew Jones wanted to be able to send in a video, but he was on the plane when our crew was collecting all of that pregame, as Riley did get a piece of that. He's down on strikes. But Andrew Jones did send a text message to Gretchen and said, for me, like we said, Bobby was a 2nd father, a man that meant much to my career. He believed in me, gave me the opportunity to chase a dream of a game that I love. He meant so much to the city of Atlanta. And certainly those are very, very true words from Andrew Jones. Now Michael Harris. This should send us to the stretch. You're going to hear from more Braves alums as they talk to Peter and Paul. The stretch, as always, is fueled by our friends at Georgia Natural Gas.
Welcome to The Stretch, fueled by Georgia Natural Gas. Service, savings, sustainability. It's that simple.
Welcome to The Stretch, fueled by Georgia Natural Gas. Pete and Paul hanging out with you again. And Bertie, there's been tributes flooding in all day long from Braves alumni, and we've got one more from Marquise Grissom for you to hear.
I tell you what, if any player had an opportunity to play with Bobby Cox, he's definitely a player's manager. To have a guy who go all out for you as a player, and all he asks for you is to do your very best every time you step on the field and work on your craft. Those are the words that were expressed to me when I first met Bobby Cox. And I knew at that point I would have no problems with him, and he would have no problems with me. And Bobby Cox is pretty much the reason why we had an opportunity to win that World Series in 1995, because of his leadership.
We've heard a lot of stories about the man. Well, these are the numbers on the field in 29 seasons. We're not going to see it again, Bertie.
Absolutely incredible. I got to tell my story. Everybody's talking about him getting your back. Well, I had a front row seat to that pitching for Philadelphia in '99. Of course, I hit Eddie Perez twice. Eddie runs down to first base and John Smoltz into double play. Eddie's mad, so he clotheslines our shortstop literally like a pulling guard for the Falcons. Yeah. So Bobby comes running out and he is screaming at the umpire, "That's what we teach in this organization. That's what we teach." That's the G version. There's a few other things mixed in, but that's the kind of guy that he was fighting for, and he was not going to leave until he got thrown out of that game. And at that point, the entire city of Atlanta, everybody watching it, absolutely lost it.
Incredible stuff, Bertie. Let's get you back out to LA, but first, quick message from our friends at Georgia Natural Gas.
When it comes to natural gas in Georgia, G&G leads the league. We keep it simple with great rates that save you money. We even make it easy to reduce your carbon footprint with greener life. Sign up in minutes at gng.com. It's that simple.
Great stuff from Marquise and the boys in the studio there on a night where we remember Bobby Cox. Back at Dodger Stadium, Braves in command 6-0. Now it's on to the bullpen after 6 strong innings from Strider, and here's the lefty lead.
Got it set up the way you want, right? Spencer Strider does an excellent job. Now handed off to the big arms, and Dylan Lee has been one of those big arms. Almost a 38% strikeout rate for the lefty this year.
He's going to face a pinch hitter, Alex Call, from the right side, taking the place of Kyle Tucker. First full season with LA for Alex Call. Deadline pickup last July from the Nationals, so the Braves saw him in the NL East.
Pretty interesting. Obviously, he's in there because the lefty is in there. We talk about the monster contract that was given out to Kyle Tucker, to think that he would be getting pinch hit for. It's a 6-0 game. It's the 7th inning, but I think for the Los Angeles Dodgers, you like to always believe that your offense will have a chance. This is a power offense, but not happening. 6 for 11 against lefties this year for Alex Call. It's good for a .545 batting average, but it's Kyle Tucker.
Yeah. And Freddie Freeman was also taken out, not because of injury, just because they got him out of the game, get him off his feet. They put Rushing over there at first base. So a couple of stars out of the lineup for Dave Roberts.
I do wonder if he sees the Braves bullpen right after Strider gets through 6, and not to say that he's punting this game, but to your point, getting some rest. But they just had the off day on Thursday like the Braves did.
Call puts it in the air, shallow into the grass. There's Mateo. Here's a message right now from Delta.
From Braves country to the world. Delta, official airline of the Atlanta Braves.
Dylan Lee, 8 straight scoreless appearances on the road and trying to make it 9 tonight. He's got 1 away as he deals to Pages. Last night was gorgeous, and more of the same tonight here at Dodger Stadium. Where does this one rank for you, partner?
Well, I mean, every time people ask about ballparks, where is it great to call a game, atmosphere, mound? Like, there's so many different aspects. I think from our view right now, both literally and figuratively, it's a pretty good one, but it's so loud here, it's annoying. Like, it makes the broadcast uncomfortable for us with how loud it can be here. But this, of course, is an historic place. The surface is beautiful. I was talking to Tony Manzolino about it today. So what's what we got for the turf report? He said fast, really fast.
There's evidence as Pages puts it on the carpet and rolls it out to left. That's just the second hit for the Dodgers tonight.
He said you're going to be careful about a ground ball in the gap. Your shortstop misses it. It could end up going to the wall. That is how quick the grass is here at Dodger Stadium.
And more replacements here. Espinal, who started last night, is going to come into the game for Muncy.
I mean, I'm good for 3 days. 3 days is a good number, I think, to come here to Dodger Stadium once a year.
Backing up. Yaz will take this. Yeah, look, I put this not quite in the same camp as Fenway and Wrigley, but those are the three oldest ballparks. There's so much history. And I do think there's something about coming here that is really special. Fenway and Wrigley, because of their extreme history, feels a little different to me. And you're right, the PA system is loud, but there still is something special, especially on a night like tonight where the temperatures are so pleasant. Before the sun sets, you can see the mountains beyond the center field wall. It is a cool place to take in a ball game.
I'd be good with multiple trips to Boston, multiple trips to Wrigley during the year. It is easier to get back to the hotel from both of those places. Sometimes in Boston you can walk back depending on where we're staying. It's a solid 50. And 90 yesterday for us to get to the ballpark. That was something.
Yeah, it was a long one, but thankfully the ride home was a lot quicker. It was about 30 minutes. Fouled into the seats. When they built this place, it cost $23 million. Now in today's money, that's about $225, but still, it's hard to get a stadium these days, it seems, for under $1 billion. So you think about it in those terms, it's hard to believe.
We're like 6 Kyle Tuckers this year as far as what they're paying out of pocket. It's crazy to think that back then there's quite a handful of players who could have paid cash for this ballpark really easily.
What a different time. Yeah, they started to build it in '59. It was an incredible undertaking because of Chavez Ravine and the terrain here. Workers had to move 8 million cubic yards of earth, which at the time was just an incredible task to get this ballpark built. Riley looked at second, but he'll go across to Matt Olson and send us to the 8th inning. It is 6
prices and 55-month interest-free financing. The Rooms to Go Memorial Day sale starts now.
I called him a lot when I got this job, and there's a lot of questions that I had, and every time I called, he never didn't answer the phone. It never went to voicemail. He answered it every time that I ever called him, and Lord knows that, you know, when everything happened and I lost that contact, that was one of those things that really hurt, because he was that guy that I could talk to about any situation, because he had been there and done that. And any question that I had or any situation I was experiencing, he had already experienced that. So he was someone great to lean on, and you know, I loved him for it and missed him immensely after the stroke, and he couldn't communicate.
Well, Brian Snitker knew Bobby Cox about as well as anybody. You think of how long those guys were in the organization together, their relationship spanning decades. Look at that. Look at that picture. How about that? Look at the stash for Snit on the right.
Get comfy, Snit.
But, you know, Snit was well aware that this day could be coming soon. He had been made aware of that for a while, and he tried to get over to see Bobby as often as he possibly could while he was managing. And I said it earlier, but I think there's a reason that Bobby Cox hung around until Brian Snitker went into the Hall of Fame for the Braves on April 25th. And Bobby Cox was able to watch that ceremony from his house. And certainly, Snit, we're thinking about you today too, partner, because I know that this is a big loss for you.
There are so many lessons to take out of everything that we're hearing today, right? We've talked a lot about the leadership of Bobby Cox, and listening to Walt Weiss talk about how he was treated, what it means to him, how it's kind of helped him become a manager, and then listening to Snit there, making me think about how valuable a mentor could be, like a true mentor. Like when he said, every time I called him, he picked up the phone. I could run every scenario by him. He had an answer for me because he had done it. No doubt that what that meant for Snit in his managerial career, and again now, Walt trying to do his part to carry on this legacy as well. There's a lot of good lessons out of that life from Bobby Cox, not just about how to manage a baseball game and how to win, but how to pay that stuff forward and take care of people along the way.
Yeah, a lot on Snit's mind today, a lot on Walt Weiss's mind. Two men who knew him extremely well. Well, the Braves right now honoring Bobby Cox, still hanging on to that 6th spot on the scoreboard. Kind of cool. 6-0 here in the 8th. First at bat tonight for Yastrzemski. Braves do have Reynaldo Lopez right now getting ready in the bullpen after Lee threw the 7th. Maybe you try to give, if the score holds, the final 2 to Reynaldo?
Possibly. If it looks really good, I think they would like to have him in a perfect world, get some consistent work, but maybe even at multi-inning work.
Gervais gets back-to-back strikeouts.
This guy is funky. You mentioned 6'10". The extension on his fastball and his pitches, 7 feet 6 inches. Your big league average is 6'4". Guys get the 7. Spencer Strider will get the 7. It's amazing that he does it at his height. That's a big number. 7'1", 7'2", starts to get a leap. That last pitch to Yaz was 7 feet 6 inches of extension, meaning that's how far he was from the pitching rubber when the ball came out of his hand. I don't think you're going to see a bigger number than that. So that's a guy using his height to his advantage.
6'10". He's all legs out there too. Long levers. Mateo rolls it up the middle. Second hit for Jorge Mateo tonight. Let's take a peek at our Truist leaderboard here in the 8th, talking about road wins. Braves trying to get another one tonight. Braves already have 14. That is the most in Major League Baseball this season. The Cubs did overtake the Braves for the best record in baseball, 27-12 coming into today's action. Cubs have been playing really good, and of course they're going to visit Truist Park this coming week. Now the Cubs did lose today, so the Braves with the win here can equal them at 27-13.
And they lost Matthew Boyd in their rotation to a knee injury. He actually damaged his meniscus playing with his kids at home. Unfortunately, one of the really good guys in baseball, but so they're down a starter right now in Chicago.
And that loss today ended a 10-game win streak for the Cubbies. high and tight. Look out. Dubon backed away from the plate.
Yeah, things went kind of in opposite directions in that National League Central. You had the Cubs go on their run. They're now 14 games over. The Reds had gotten off to a really nice start. They have been struggling. They're down to now 21-19, which is in that division good for last place. 2 games over 500. And you are in last place right now in the National League Central.
Whereas in the NL East, the Braves are the only team above 500. You surprised by the Cardinals at 23-16 right now?
Very. And some of those numbers that try to look at kind of how things are going to go the rest of the way tell us that they'll probably come back to earth. But for Cardinals fans, it's been a fun run. I think it's been an important one for them. They have lost a lot of fans over the last couple of years. Their attendance has gone down significantly. And you knew it was going to be a rebuilding year, so at least they're playing some games that their fans will want to see.
Yeah, which is surprising that historically such a fertile and rabid fan base there in the heart of the country. So 2 on here with 2 out. Drake Baldwin, a couple of walks tonight. Through the right side, Mateo is going to be waved home. Call comes up throwing. It is late. It is 7-0. Baldwin drives in number 31 on the season.
Nice piece of hitting here on this 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Behind in the count once again. We talked about Baldwin and his ability. Check, that was 1-0 count on that pitch. Looking at the wrong hitter. And great speed by Mateo's done a good job tonight on the base pass. And these guys have gotten on. They put a lot of pressure on this Dodger pitching. And the big one is the big hits now with runners in scoring position. We talked about it. It was an issue yesterday, just 1 for 10. But so far here tonight, 4 for 12 with Risp.
Yeah, Braves have made last night a distant memory. They have owned the Dodgers here in game 2 of this series. And really the key moment in this ball game, you go back to the 2nd inning. It was Ozzie Albies with a 2 RBI single on an 0-2 pitch, and then Matt Olson with a 2 RBI hit behind him that really helped to open this ball game up. Bouncer to the right side. Now Gervais will have to hustle over at 6'10", but he gets together to make the play. Braves had 1. It's 7-0.
He ran into the third base coach in Cincinnati, and Bobby went ballistic on Hunter Wendelstedt was the umpire, and he said a few choice words that we were all lucky enough to hear. That was definitely my favorite Bobby Cox ejection.
I think everybody has a favorite Bobby Cox ejection. When it comes from Maddox, it means a little bit more, but a funny moment from back in the day. They talked about that in that roundtable that we will re-air after the post-game show tonight.
The best part of that, right, is that Bobby would get so fired up in those moments, but then he was so calm and humble talking about it after, almost like there was a slight embarrassment to it. Like, you do it again in a heartbeat, but it's almost not his normal personality. But you push the right buttons, you do something to one of his players that he's not happy about, and an umpire was going to get an earful.
They got a lot of earfuls over the years. All right, Ronaldo Lopez coming in here in a 7-0 ball game in the 8th.
A couple of relief appearances so far for Ronaldo that have gone well. 3 total innings out of the bullpen, 3 strikeouts, no runs, just the 1 walk and 1 hit.
At the plate is Ha-Seong Kim. We told you last night, but it's a different spelling, as you can see on the screen, and no relation to Ha-Seong Kim. He's been playing a lot of shortstop with Mookie Betts out. Betts will be returning, they think, this coming week in short order. He's been out with a right oblique issue, has Betts, since April 5th. Lopez finds the zone, 3-1.
But he and Ha-Seong Kim, they were teammates, right? In KBO,
yes.
Both playing for the Heroes, the Nexen Heroes.
And they were a middle infield duo, shortstop and second base.
And then they switched over to Kawoom Heroes. I too once was a Nexen hero. I'm not sure I was anybody's hero when I was there, but I was on the team and I got the jersey.
Yeah, they were teammates over there, the two Kims, from 2017 to 2020.
Second baseman, number 76, Alex Freeland.
Now the former third-round pick 4 years ago by the Dodgers, Alex Freeland. Bit of a command issue early for Lopez. Sean Murphy's going to pop out there. Let's head downstairs. Wiley, what do you have?
Well, guys, we've talked about tributes to Bobby Cox for the Braves all night long, but Chris Woodward, first base coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers, he's got a Bobby Cox story. Played for the Braves in 2007, and he was towards the end of his career, and the Braves called up Martin Prado. Now, Woodward, he was off to a slower start, and he shared this with Freddie Freeman today, but he was a little nervous about his playing time and his status on the roster with Prado coming up, but Bobby called him into his office. It took only 2 minutes. But it was just a conversation. Said, hey, we just want to see what Prado can do here. You're still a solid piece in our mind, and you're going to be a big part of what we do moving forward. And Chris kind of said it not only changes day, it kind of changes outlook on the whole season. I mean, things really could have gone sideways for him. But that reassurance went a long way.
And you know Chris Woodward from the time in Texas as well, CJ.
Yeah, he was the manager when I was there, competed against him. We actually were in the same draft, Woody and I. But it's funny to hear that story and the way that it went and what they thought the plan was going to be, and then ultimately what the plan became there with Martin Prado. Don't worry about her. She's just a friend. It got a little bit more serious after that for Martin Prado and the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, Woodward, the skipper for the Rangers from 2019 to 2022. And now here as the first base coach with the Dodgers.
That's a good guy, good teacher of the game. We actually ran into him on Thursday night when we went to that comedy night, the Dodger comedy night. Christian was, hey, who's that over there? Was sitting across the aisle. I was, oh, it's Woody. Hey, man, what's going on? He's sitting right next to us.
Ohtani fouls off the 0-2 pitch. He's probably just happy to not see Strider anymore. 0 for 3 with a pair of strikeouts against Strider before it's on to the Braves bullpen here. Lopez got the double play ball off the bat of Freeland. He almost got Ohtani. How about that slow curve at 71?
Good idea there by Ronaldo Lopez, especially if you're going to go in the zone at 0-2. It better be something that looks a little bit different. And you can see the grip and how far apart the hands are. It's not an easy pitch to throw at full arm speed. The grip is what's going to sell it.
And upstairs with 94. So the former reliever Reynaldo Lopez had struggled a bit as a starter. Braves putting him back in the pen, trying to get through the 8th here. And a slider that again Ohtani just gets a piece of.
And the other thing, when you saw the command there early on, right to walk and then falling behind 2-0, it had been a while since he had last been in a game, and he only threw an inning in that last game. So understandably so, trying to stay sharp, a little bit of a different feel for Ronaldo compared to when, of course, he was a starter. There's some adjustments that you have to make again when you go back into the pen, and everybody believes Ronaldo Lopez will be back in the rotation at some point.
He's trying to work out some kinks. 2-2 pitch. Ohtani the other way for his first hit of the night.
First base, number 68, Dalton Rushing.
Well, one thing that Dave Roberts said last week about Ohtani's relative slow start to the season is that he felt like he was trying to pull the ball too much, opening up, trying to force the ball to right and right center. So probably a good sign there. He just slaps it out to left for a 2-out hit.
It's one thing that's always amazed me about his swing, because if you look at it, it's always been like that. It feels like he's bailing out. It feels like he should not be able to cover the outside part of the play, but he has figured out ways to do it. But when then he starts slumping, it sticks out more, and then you feel like you really can't expose that. And so trying to get him back at least to the middle of the field, to your point, slapping one to left will probably get him going, and I hope that happens starting Monday.
Yeah, happen next week, and then Braves won't see the Dodgers until the end of August, so he can slump again then. It'll be August 25th through the 27th, the other meeting between the Braves and Dodgers this year. That'll of course be at Truist Park. Dalton Rushing, the batter, backup catcher, but they've also given him a little time this year at first base, and he took over a couple of innings ago at first for Freddie Freeman.
Makes some sense, because so far he's hit a little bit. He certainly has shown power. It's only been 72 games in the big leagues, but 11 home runs and 220 plate appearances. And that is the kind of guy you try to find at bats for.
But he is swinging and missing here to end the 8th. The Braves shutting out the Dodgers 7-0.
really fond memory. You know, him sitting in the dugout, Dodger Stadium, walking up and asking him to tell me a story. He's in full uniform at 1 o'clock. Spikes on, cigar in his mouth, and he tells me a Mickey Mantle story. So I'm gonna miss both of them tremendously, and my heart goes out to the families and to Braves country.
Yeah, Chipper talking about missing both Ted Turner and now Bobby Cox, who have passed within just a few days of each other here in what's been a tough week for Braves country. But we celebrate both of those men, and tonight specifically we celebrate the great Bobby Cox.
How amazing is that? Think about it. Sitting in Dodger Stadium in the dugout, Bobby Cox full uni with the spikes on. I love that part. With the cigar. Smoking with the spikes on. That's an interesting one for sure. But boy, how great it would have been to be there for that.
Yeah. We mentioned the time playing with Mickey Mantle in 1968, and then he's able to share those stories with guys like Chipper, who of course would become one of the great cornerstones of this franchise and the game of baseball. Matt Olson bounces it, but it's going to be foul. Like that hit Matt in the batter's box. By the way, the Braves have not shut out the Dodgers since August 13th of 2010.
Wow.
And that is
ever or just here?
Like ever.
Wow. Or I'd say ever, but
Bobby Cox's final season. He would retire less than 2 months later. The last time the Braves shut out the Dodgers here, you have to go back to 1997. So wouldn't it be something if it was tonight that they blanked the Dodgers? Braves got 1 in the first, 4 in the second. They have cruised since. Matt Olson down on strikes to start the 9th inning. Paul Gervais just got called up yesterday when they put Glasnow on the IL, and right now he's just saving some innings for that bullpen. Riley drove in the first run of the game back in the first inning. He slips this between Kim and Espinal on the left side for a single in the 9th.
Number 23, Michael Harris, the second.
Braves with 12 hits, just 3 tonight for the Dodgers. They only got 1 off of Spencer Strider. If you're just getting home from the bar back in Atlanta, Strider went 6 and was tremendous. Struck out 8, gave up just 1 hit.
I also want to know what you're doing home so early. It's not even midnight yet.
Maybe a late dinner back in Atlanta.
Or maybe you pulled a Bobby Cox and got kicked out.
There you go. They tossed you after you tried to order a couple of lemon drops. Favorite of our stage manager, JR.
Big lemon drop guy. He tried to make me feel bad today because I made fun of his pink quarter zip. It matches his binoculars. He said, well, you bought it at a charity thing. You feel bad now? It's like, no. They still look ridiculous.
Slider fouled away by Harris.
But that's A+ stage managing, that you're going to match your wardrobe to your binoculars.
Yeah.
You got to have binoculars to keep an eye on the bullpens, and Jerry is extremely helpful, letting us know who's warming up and also what the score of the Stanley Cup games are.
Oh, wait, he's coming over.
It is nice. I'm just teasing. That is nice.
0-2 pitch. Up top. Harris goes for it. 2 down.
Number 12, Sean Murphy.
One of these guys, and we mentioned it for Matt Olson, it was a 90-mile-an-hour fastball that got past him. 92 there for Michael Harris, who both of these guys have been crushing fastballs all year. But again, it's all about that extension. You just don't see it. It's such a unique look. And it's also arms and elbows kind of going all over the place with this guy at 6'10". It feels like he's sitting next to you by the time he releases the baseball.
Played at LSU. Mets actually took him 4 years ago in the 12th round before finding his way to the Dodgers organization.
And only the one walk tonight, which is kind of a big deal. His walk numbers in the minor leagues in the limited time that he's had in the big leagues have not been good.
High in the sky out towards Alex Call. Braves will go for the shutout here at Dodger Stadium when we get back. Well, today we remember the legend, the skipper, number 6, the Hall of Famer Bobby Cox, who passed this morning at 84 years old back in suburban Atlanta. And we've heard such wonderful tributes tonight from so many that played with Bobby, that played under Bobby, that coached with Bobby. It has been a special night to celebrate Bobby Cox, as we also do it with a heavy heart. And the Braves have honored him here on the field at Dodger Stadium by being in command from the get-go, 7-0, and now Lopez will try to get the final 3 outs.
It's been a really good, clean game. Obviously, I think a lot of other things on our mind, including for Walt Weiss and Eddie Perez in particular in that dugout, right? And to go out and manage the way that they have.
Yaz over there in foul ground near the 330 mark. And there is one away here in the bottom of the 9th.
I don't think it's been easy for them, but it's been really nice to hear everybody's words and what they've shared about their experiences and kind of reliving some old stories and just some great lessons, I think, for all of us to take away from the life of Bobby Cox.
I said it at the start of the broadcast, but today I just kept thinking about how much I used to enjoy when he would trot out to the mound and the way that he waddled out there, because he did have the chronic knee issues, so he had that funny gait. And all the conversations I remember when they would show back in the old TBS days, pan over to the dugout, he'd sit next to Leo Mazzoni, and Leo's rocking, and Bobby's got his hand on his chin, and they're having those intense conversations. It's the little things that brought them into your living room and kind of made them real life figures that you think back on all these years later, and especially on a day like today. Alex Call at the plate. This is going to be in there for extra bases before Dubon can get to it. So a 1-out double here in the 9th for Call.
Well, Fastball here down the middle. Some run to there. That four-seamer from Ronaldo Lopez here. In this situation, it's the 9th inning. Got a big lead. You want to fill up the strike zone, and ball just jumps on a heater.
Just the 4th hit tonight for the Dodgers. Here's Pages. It was announced as a sellout crowd earlier tonight, but most of them have hit the exits in a game that the Braves lead 7-0 here in the ninth.
It's always a great shot here that you get when you're beating the Dodgers. Lots of red lights.
Pages deep to left, and it is out of here. The shutout is gone. It's 7-2.
Fastball here, good look at it from Ronaldo Lopez, 1-0 count. So Pages can kind of sit on it and try to get the head out, which he did. Line shot into left field at 397 feet.
So his excellent start to the season continues. That's 9 homers and 35 driven in for Andy Pages.
So still a 5-run lead. You got one out here. Nobody up just yet in the Braves bullpen. It'll take another runner or two to get on, I think, before that happens.
Espinal, 1 ball, 1 strike. Reminder for tomorrow, 1:10 out here it starts. 4:10 back at Atlanta. Elder against Robleski for what looks like it will be a rubber game of this series. Softly to Ozzie, and he goes over to take it. 2 down here in the bottom of the ninth.
Left field, number 37, Teoscar Hernandez.
Remember, the Braves swept here in 2024. They were also swept here last year, losing the first game of this series. So the Braves trying to end that losing streak at Dodger Stadium, and they are 1 out away from doing just that. The ball game will continue, though. Hernandez, a single back up the box.
Shortstop, number 6, Hae-Sung Kim.
Hae-Sung Kim now will try to extend this game. 1 more hitter for the Dodgers. Behind him, it's Freeland, and then behind Freeland, you get back to the top of the order and Shohei Ohtani.
I think one of the things that you're looking forward here with Ronaldo, you mentioned kind of working on some things, eventually wants to get himself back into that rotation, is the sharpness of his slider. We know how important it is. You'll also keep an eye on some of that velocity as well. And there's been some good and there's been some bad on that slider so far this evening.
pitches for Lopez since entering in the 8th. 2 down, 2 balls, 2 strikes here in the bottom of the 9th. Lopez deals down the left field line, but going foul.
DeBond was cheating that way pretty heavily, and so take a look at Kim and what they believe his ability to drive the baseball. They're not worried about it going over the head of Mauricio DeBond, but more about that opportunity to take something away like that down the line, or even a short little fly ball into left field.
Another 2-2. Grounder to Matt Olson. This should do it. No, he beat it out. Kim sprinting down the line and ruled safe. And runners are at first and second. Well, the Braves used their challenge.
Yeah, they get 2, right?
Yeah.
So 1 left. Lopez was very slow to get over there and almost acting as if he thought Matt Olson was going to take it.
Ooh, man. Golly. Boy, what do you think?
I think they got there at the same time,
yeah.
Which means you're not going to see this overturned, unfortunately. Strider had one earlier in the game. I can't remember if it was Ohtani that was running, and he did a really nice job of getting over there very quickly as Ohtani was busting it down the line. Just needed a half a gear more there from Ronaldo Lopez, and this game would be over.
Well, Raisel Iglesias has started to throw. Something they were trying to avoid, although the arms in the back of the bullpen should be fresh.
See that one there? What I'd love to see now is from the other side, and that's what they do there. They sync those up. They got a chance. This will be your best look, I think. Oh, ugh. Darn it.
Yeah, I mean, from that look right there, they might have enough to change this and end the game. See what Chris Conroy says. Crew chief, here we go.
After review, the call is overturned. The runner is out. The game is over.
How about that? Braves win. This one is for number 6 tonight.
Well, pretty amazing how it ultimately ended, but what a good game this was. And again, a lot of emotion for everybody involved, certainly for Walt Weiss. Think about Chris Woodward on the other side, Eddie Perez, but really well-played game here tonight by the Braves, and a win that they needed, right? Going into tomorrow now with a shot at winning this series.
And Spencer Strider was tremendous on the mound. That leads us to our All-State Good Hands replay. 6 innings, shutout baseball, 8 strikeouts, just 1 hit.
I would say everything you wanted, but quite honestly, it was more, I think, than we could have expected tonight from Spencer Strider. Just the 1 hit, no runs, as you mentioned. But the good news is that the fastball was back. It was live. The velocity was good. It had a really good ride to it. He filled up the strike zone well. Both of the breaking balls looked really good. And then the times that he decided to break out the changeup, I thought he used really well. So up and down the line, just a really strong night here for Spencer Strider.
And fitting that the Braves get the win tonight in honor of their late skipper. Back to Dodger Stadium in just a moment.
Tomorrow afternoon, the final game of this 3-game series against the Braves, the rubber game. And for our Mother's Day celebration and tote bag giveaway.